Okay. So I was gonna film this sitting in this chair, right? And you get this like aesthetic little YouTuber-esque corner. But since my light is right here, the lighting was just really weird and like glary, and but the lighting is way better down here. So I'm just gonna like guzzle the rest of this really quick because I'm like starting to crash and I need energy to film this. So, by the way, you guys, this is not my favorite flavor. I'm really disappointed, Celsius. What the frick? I filmed this exact video 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I filmed this exact YouTube video that you're watching right now. I filmed it in that windowsill over there, but I'm not going to show you because my room is kind of like awkward bee set up right now. But yeah, 10 years ago when I was 15, when this story that I'm about to share with you all freshly happened to me, I filmed this video on my iPhone that I had at the time. And I mean, POV, I'm an awkward 15-year-old and I'm a sophomore in high school and I'm not so comfortable with myself yet. I'm not comfortable in front of the camera. I don't really know how to be a YouTuber yet. It was very awkward. It was very, like, I wasn't bubbly and eccentric in the way that I am now. And it was just very, like, monotone, just very awkward, very cringy. And I just couldn't tell the story with, like, a livelihood, right? So, long story short, the video was really cringy, right? And I posted it on my YouTube. I didn't really know how to edit yet. I was editing on iMovie still. And so there's like this group of girls that I went to high school with, and they kind of like bullied me about it. And I remember sitting in foods class and one of the girls was like, "Hey Kiana, do you remember when you overdosed on weed? Ah ha ha ha," trying to like embarrass me in front of everybody. And I was like, yeah, I do remember greening out, and it was like the most traumatizing, scariest thing that's ever happened to me ever in my life. So here we are, 10 years later. I'm gonna recall the story for you all because I mean, it's very entertaining, it's very funny, but it was also very, very scary. Like, on a real note, it was very scary. And I've always wanted to recall the story. I've always wanted to tell this on YouTube, and I've had this vision in my head to sit down and do this story time because I reckon this is a very, not very long, but it's too long for TikTok, I should say. I definitely couldn't sit down and tell this story time in under 10 minutes. So, but without further ado, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe to be in the silly goose pond if you want to be a little silly goose. Because we're silly gooses over here. I don't really upload that much. This is my vlog channel, by the way. This is not even my main account. This is my vlog spam account, if you will. I also have 2 TikToks. I have like a spam TikTok account where I post like my personality, and then I have my main TikTok. I will link that in the description, of course. Okay, so where do I begin? This happened 10 years ago, and I haven't really told the story to very many people since because it's very scary. Trigger warning though before I get into it, because it is kind of serious. If you are sensitive to like drug use or smoking weed, or because that's what this is about, or like anything along those lines, maybe don't watch this because you could be, you know, sensitive to it. It's kind of a vulnerable story, so just keep that in mind going into it. To preface, I personally don't smoke now. It's just not my thing, and I kind of learned that when this happened to me. And I was not a stoner, if you will, in high school. I had a little phase my freshman and sophomore year of high school, okay? And what about it? But I really only smoked maybe like less than 10 times in my life. So with that being said, I did not have a tolerance to it. And I never smoked by myself. I was that girl who only smoked when she was around her friends that smoked. Like, pretty much all my friends smoked weed in high school, so when I would like hang out with them and they were smoking, then I would. But like, I wasn't the type of girl that would just like sit in her room and smoke by herself. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just, you know, I went to this girl's house. I need a code name for her. Let's just go with the name Michaela, because shout out my friend Michaela. All right, she smokes, so let's just use her name as an example, because why not? I go to Michaela's house. Now, remember how I said I didn't have a tolerance to weed, right? It had been a few months since I had last smoked, and I was also on antidepressants. I believe it was fluoxetine that I was on at the time, which is kind of just like a off-brand Lexapro, basically, I think. I don't know. I was 15. And so to this day, I don't know if that's what it was. I don't know if it was laced or if it was just my antidepressants that I was on at the time making me experience it differently. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what happened. But that's the whole point of this story time. So you guys can come to your own conclusions in the comments. Let me know what you think happened. I go to Michaela's house, and she gets her ex to come over and bring us the goods. And so, smoke a little bit. Then we go outside. We jump on the trampoline. We smoke a little bit more. And I'm taking like multiple hits at a time, right? Like, I'm just going ham because I didn't know that you were supposed to just like ease into it. Like, a few hits will it's fine. Like, it's fine. But I'm just going way too crazy because I didn't know my limits. We come back inside, and then we start smoking out of a bong. Never been a bong girly. Even when I did go through like my little mini stoner phase, if you will, not that I would even call it that, I always smoked out of a bowl. I never really fucked with bongs like that. No offense to bong users. Just not my thing. I'm struggling. This is like kind of like the funny part of the story. I'm struggling. I can't like suction my mouth on it. I'm like drooling everywhere. I don't know how to do it. They're like making fun of me. They're like, you have to inhale, you have to inhale it. And I was like, I thought it was. Like, and so we had been smoking for, I want to say like 2 hours straight, basically. And I remember at some point we went into her kitchen to get pasta. And I was kind of having like tunnel vision, you know, when you're really drunk, like drunk and you're like, everything's spinning, you're kind of having tunnel vision. It was kind of like that, except I was high. And then I remember we came back into her room, and I remember sitting crisscross applesauce in her bed. And I remember looking at her and saying that this is the highest I've ever been in my life. Like, thank you for, I just want to say thank you for having me over because this is the highest I've ever been in my life. Or something like that. And they both kind of like looked at me like, okay girl, like. And that's something that you kind of have to learn the hard way when you're young, is to make sure that you, if you're gonna do something so vulnerable, make sure you're doing it around people that actually give a shit about you. And that was something I really had to learn the hard way with this story, is that these people that I was with did not give a fuck about me. They didn't, and it was really sad, but we'll get into that. So they're kind of just like, okay girl, like, they didn't know what type of high I was about to have. And then I don't remember much after that because I blacked out, basically. I remember like falling forward, like I fainted almost. But I remember having like a panic attack beforehand. I had a blue iPhone 5C at the time. It was my favorite phone to this day. I miss that phone so freaking much. It was my favorite iPhone I've ever had. That's the phone I had at the time, and I was holding it in my hands, and I remember freaking out because I couldn't feel it. I was looking at it in my hands, but I couldn't like physically feel it in my hands. My hands are so sweaty and like numb, and at that point, like, you're too high. Like, that's not even like an enjoyable high. That was like, I was high as a kite. And I was so young, which is crazy that I even was smoking weed that young. And I know that it's kind of normalized. On a side note, I know that it's like normalized for kids in high school to like smoke and drink, but it shouldn't be. You're way too young. And I hate to sound like that adult that's like, oh my god, you guys are too young to be like doing all that, like, but that, I like, looking back in retrospect now, that was crazy. I didn't need to be doing all of that. Anyway, so I black out and I fall forward, and then I remember sitting back up, and I remember saying, okay, I think I'm back now, because I don't remember what happened. And then they look at me and they're like, oh my gosh, she's tripping, bro, like she's tripping balls. And then like paranoia sets in, and I start having what would be considered a bad trip, I believe. Even though I like, it wasn't like I was doing shrooms or like drugs. Like, all I did was smoke a little bit of weed. At that point, when they're making fun of me, saying that I was tripping, everything starts happening in slow motion. If you were to take a video and like go into the settings and put it in slow motion, that is what I was experiencing. And I'm not being hyperbolic. Like, the way that they were talking, as they were talking, it was in slow motion. My perception of time, not there. And at that moment, I know it sounds dumb, but I was a sophomore in high school. I was so convinced that I had died. Because I had never had my, at that point, I had never had my reality kind of altered in that way. And I didn't know what was happening to me. And so I start texting my dad to come pick me up, because I was high as a fucking kite. And they're not being very supportive. They're legitimately laughing at me, like they're getting a kick out of me being vulnerable and scared. And this one girl, Michaela, quote unquote, I thought was my best friend. She was my best friend for like 3 years. But that was the night that, like, I never talked to her ever again after that. Actually, yes I did, but we'll get into that. I started texting my dad, and I don't remember what I'm saying verbatim, because it was 10 years ago, but I remember it being very weird from what he tells me. Just not normal things that I would say, and it freaked him out, and he didn't respond right away. And so because he didn't respond until like 20 or 30 minutes later, in my paranoid, high out of my mind brain, I legitimately thought the reason why he isn't texting me back is because I passed away. Which, I know this all sounds so crazy. I just have to emphasize the fact that I was legitimately 15 years old, okay? And so once I came to that conclusion, that I was no longer here on Earth and I was in another parallel universe somewhere, I stand up. Mind you, I still have tunnel vision. Everything is still happening in slow motion. Paranoid out of my freaking mind. I get up and I'm sweating, but I'm cold. It feels like I have a fever. I'm experiencing all of these sensations that I have never felt before. That's what she said. And I was wearing Uggs. I put my boots on and I'm packing all of my shit. I had like a curling iron because I was gonna spend the night at her house. I put my curling iron in there, put my makeup in there, put my clothes in my bag. And I like walk out of her room. I don't say anything to them. Like, they're trying to talk to me, I'm completely ignoring them, and it was really fucking awkward. But in my brain, I was like, they're demons. They're not real people. And they're evil. And obviously it's hard to like think about what I was thinking during that time. I don't remember. I think I was just so fucking high that I didn't know what to do because I was so scared. So I just like wasn't talking to them. And they were like asking me where I was going or what I was doing. I just got up and left. I didn't say a word to them. And I went and sat on her front porch. Now, important information to add to this is that it was 9 o'clock at night. It was in the middle of December. And I live in New England, so it's below freezing out. And I'm sitting on her front porch. It's pitch black out. I'm texting my dad and he's still not responding. Because I was in another state of mind, I was so convinced that I had died. And that's the reason why my dad wasn't texting me back. So I get up, holding my duffel bag of stuff. This is why you don't smoke weed, kids. This is why you don't do drugs. I start walking around town. Mind you, she lived in another town. Like, she lived in a, like, neighboring town from my hometown. So I couldn't just, like, walk home, right? You can't just, like, walk on the highway. I start walking around her town by myself. Pitch black out, below freezing. 15 years old, young, vulnerable, in a town full of drug addicts, crackheads. And nothing's changed. Like, it's still like that in that town. Like, anything could have happened to me. I could have been kidnapped. I could have been sex trafficked. Like, anything could have happened to me. And I'm walking around by myself, high out of my mind. And I'm pretty sure I was talking out loud to myself or to God. And I don't remember if I was talking out loud or if I was just saying all this in my head, but I'm pretty sure I was saying it all out loud because I was high. And I just remember like praying. I'm not religious, but I was like praying and I was like, please, like, I don't want to be high anymore. Like, please just bring me back. Like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. Like, how much longer is this gonna last? Like, and I couldn't see where I was going either because it was pitch black outside. So I had no idea where I was going. I was just like walking around, fully convinced that I had died. And it was so fucking scary. Everything's still happening in slow motion. My vision is completely blurry. Can't see a thing. Don't know where I'm going. My dad had already left the house to come pick me up, but I didn't know that because I couldn't even hold my phone. That's how up I was. At some point, I don't know how long I was walking around this town, but it had to have been like at least 2 hours. But it felt like eternity. Like, because my perception of time was off, it felt like days I was walking around. I don't even know how else to stress that or put it into words. It just felt like so long. So much longer than what it actually was. At some point, I found a police officer. I found a cop car that had pulled somebody over. And I walk up to the cop car. And I don't remember if he had his window down already or if I knocked on the window for him. Who the fuck approaches a cop car? I'm 15 years old. What are you doing, girl? So, who are you hanging out with? What the fuck is going on? I approach the cop car and I go, hey, I smoked weed with my friends and I'm pretty sure I'm dead. I don't know what's going on and I don't know where I am. Something along those lines. And he just goes, okay, do you mind standing in front of my car really quick? I go, sure. So because he had somebody pulled over and he was like, he had his laptop out and he was like doing the report or whatever, I go and stand in front of this cop car, and I shit you not, when I just said that that had felt like an eternity of me walking around her town, to this day, realistically, I was probably only standing in front of his car for maybe like 10 minutes. But oh my, it felt like days I was standing in front of that car. He had his headlights on. I'm just gonna emphasize the fact that it was pitch black out. It was probably 11 o'clock at night at this point, middle of December, freezing out. I'm 15 years old. I'm by myself. I have no idea where I am. I'm making myself sound like I was such a crazy, reckless kid. I wasn't. I was just around the wrong people. I was standing in front of this cop car, and I'm like jittery and I'm shaking because God knows when the last time I ate was. I don't even remember if I ate that pasta at Michaela's house. I don't remember. I don't think I did. I think I probably took a few bites and that was it. I don't know when the last time I had water was. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on. I'm standing in front of the cop car for what feels like days, weeks even. And I'm not being overdramatic. It felt like eternity. I was standing in front of that cop car. And he finally gets out of the car. And I remember saying, like, why did it take you a half an hour to do that? Girl, stop. What? I don't even remember what I don't remember what he said after that. And he like shines a flashlight in my eyes and he's like asking me a bunch of questions. I don't remember if he had me do like the drunk test where like you have to like walk in a straight line. I don't remember what happened at that point. I just remember getting into the cop car at some point. And he drove me up the hill to the hospital. Like a kind gentleman, right? I didn't have to on that, but he did. Drove me to the hospital. I go to the ER. We're sitting in the waiting room together. Little 15-year-old me with my little duffel bag. My little spend the night bag. Because what I thought was going to be a precious little fun girls' night at Michaela's house turned into a I'm drugged out night. And then I get seen, and it was a male nurse, question mark, I don't know, male whatever. And I remember he was like asking me a bunch of questions, and then he goes, do you have any weapons on you? And because I'm a comedian, I said, not unless you consider a curling iron a weapon. The way that the both of them lost it, like they both had a field day with that. They both started laughing, and I was like, yeah. I'm still high as fuck, but I just made both of these grown men laugh, so what the fuck about it? Like, you can't say shit to me. You can't say shit to me. So, at that point, we go into another room, and they start asking me questions about, like, MDMA and Molly and ecstasy and all these drugs, and I was like, I don't know what was in that marijuana. I don't know if it was laced. I don't know if they're pulling a little pranky prank on me. I don't know. All I know is that I have been taking fluoxetine for a few months now. Maybe that's why the weed made me feel like I was on hallucinogenics. Because that's another thing to add. I don't know if I was like seeing like physical hallucinations, but I was having auditory hallucinations. So there's that. I don't remember what specifically, I just remember like there was something there. And so I did a pee sample, and they said that no weed came back in the sample, but also nothing else came back in the sample. But maybe that was because it was too early to tell. At least that's what they told me. So I was like, okay, well, all I know is I'm high as fuck and I don't want to be high as fuck anymore, so like, can we change that? Like, and so the kind police officer, I wish I got his name, asks me to call my parent. So I got my phone out and I tried to call my dad. But it was hard for me to talk. It was hard for me to physically talk. I was still shaking, like violently, like I had just gotten out of a freezer that I was sitting in for 3 hours. Like, I was violently shaking. And it was hard for me to talk, so I couldn't really talk. So I handed the phone to the police officer and I said, can you talk to him for me? Because I can't put words into a sentence right now. And so he's on the phone with my father. He said, hey, we're at this town's medical center. I'm here with your daughter. Do you like want to come pick her up? Like, have you guys spoken? I don't remember what he said. And then we went into another room, and I don't remember much else after that. I remember my dad coming into the room, and I remember sitting, like, you know when you go to get a checkup at the doctor's and they have the little beds with like the parchment paper on it? I was in one of those rooms, and I was like in fetal position because I was so scared, still violently shaking, and I was like, I can't even look at you right now, talking to my dad, because I, like, at that point I was still convinced that I had died. So everything that was happening to me, I was like, this is the afterlife. Like, that isn't even my dad. Like, this is all just like the next life, I guess. I don't know. And then I remember driving home in the back seat with my dad and his ex-wife in the passenger seat. And I didn't go to school for like 3 days after that because I needed to like come back into reality. And then for the next 2 years, I had really, really bad derealization. And I had already struggled with like dissociating beforehand because of just my own personal trauma, but it was really, really bad for like the second half of high school because of that. It triggered something in my brain. And it took a while for me to like feel normal again after that. And then I didn't touch weed again until 2020, so 5 years later. But here's the last thing that I want to say. So, mind you, if I had a guest over, and I'm not going to make excuses for her because we were 15 and we were young, because I would have known better at 15. If I had a friend over and they were having a bad trip, nothing in me would have sat there and laughed at them and made fun of them. I would have comforted them and made sure that they were okay. And I would have done everything that I could have done to make sure that they felt comfortable and safe. They didn't. Not only that, neither one of them reached out to me afterwards to see if I was okay or to check in on me at all. I literally just took off from her house. Hello? Like, hello? She never reached out to me to see if I was okay. And I remember reaching out to her, I want to say like 2 or 3 weeks later, apologizing to her for being weird and acting weird and greening out because I wanted her to think that I was cool. Because she was like the pretty, like, party girl that everybody wanted to be friends with. And I couldn't hang because my system just couldn't handle that much weed. And I made a fool out of myself. And that's okay. Like, it felt like the end of the world, obviously, in high school. But now as an adult, it's like, okay, whatever. But it was still very, very scary. And it was like the most traumatizing, one of the most traumatizing things that's ever happened to me at this point in my life. And, you know, if there's anybody young and impressionable watching, please just like obviously I'm gonna say stay away from that. You don't need to be smoking. But if you're going to, make sure that you're in a safe space, please, for the love of freaking everything good in the universe. Be surrounded by people who actually give a shit about you. Because if God forbid something goes wrong, you would want to make sure that they were okay. So yeah, I never talked to her again after that. I never heard from her ever again. I've never heard from her since then. So yeah, there's the story of when I greened out beyond my mind and consciousness 10 years ago. I hope you took something from this. I hope this was entertaining for you. Make sure to subscribe to Be a Silly Goose if you're not already, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for being here. I love you. Goodbye.